Hi everyone, it's me, Lauren Cadillac,
and this is Nayra.
We are with Cadillac Law, and today I decided, poor Nayra. So Nayra, you know that I'm working on my LLM in taxation, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember what an LLM is?
No, I don't.
Okay. So I can't actually say what LLM stands for because it's like Latin and I don't know how to pronounce it. But basically, it's like a master's degree in law. So a JD is a professional degree, but if you considered the JD, the law degree, like a bachelor's, then you can get an LLM, which is a master's, and then you can get an SJD, which is like a PhD in law.
Nice.
I'm not doing that. Okay, so I'm working on my LLM in taxation. And I spent this weekend listening to the lectures, and I noticed this pattern. So we're learning about countries to do where you can do like offshore, you can set up a business or a trust or whatever and have like a lower tax basis and avoid taxation, right? And so I'm watching this, and he'll name a country, the professor, and then he'll go on and on and on and on about things you can do in the country.
Okay.
Then he'll name another country, on and on and on and on. And he gave like at least 15 countries. And with the exception of 2, Nayra, can you guess what they all had in common?
Nope.
Just guess. One guess, come on, just one guess. What did all the countries that had tax havens have in common?
They're not the United States.
Yeah, they did. Actually, that's a really good one. Okay, so besides the fact that they're not the U.S.,
They're not the U.S.
what they all had in common is that they were British colonies at one point.
I was gonna say that.
That was your next guess?
It was.
So like Antigua, the Bahamas, U.S., Singapore, all these places, and all of like the common theme. There's even this place called Jersey, which is like next to England or part of England or something, and they have all these tax treaties, and like they all have these trusts and shelters. So the common theme was they all use English common law, which most of England's prior colonies are on English common law. All of the 50 states are except one. Do you know which state doesn't use the English common law? One guess. Louisiana.
Oh.
Because they were French.
French.
So they use the French civil law. Right. Everywhere else we use English common law as like our foundation of the law. And so all of these countries had that in common, obviously, because they were British colonies. So then I was like, why do all the British colonies hate taxes? And then I realized it. I realized like, so America is founded on hating taxes.
Yes.
Right?
That
is the Tea Party, that's everything, right? And I'm like, I don't get it, because you look at countries like Norway and Sweden and Denmark, those people were Vikings, those people were murderous, they're scary, but they have these governments that they trust, they pay a ton in taxes, and they don't really seem to take mind to it, right? So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what is different? Well, when I realized the pattern of all these post-British colonies having the tax havens, I realized the reason we hate taxes is because they go, historically, taxes in British colonies are tied to supporting one family.
Yes.
Just some dude, like, oh, the king or queen or whatever, and nobody had any choice. Nobody had any say. And then I saw this photo on LinkedIn today, and the royal family was at some soccer game over the weekend or whatever, right? And the kid's in a suit. Yeah. And I'm like, the least the kid can do, since you're supporting him completely, is wear a damn suit, right? Like, just put on the suit and go to the soccer game. Every other kid gets to wear normal clothes and tinnies, right? Not your kid. He's a monarch. We're paying for him. Put him in a suit, right? And so I was like, oh, we hate taxes because they paid for an individual. And it's hard for us as Americans, and really any post-British colonial government, to be like, okay, taxes can be okay. Taxes can support everybody. And that's all the king's fault. I blame it all on the king.
It's the king.
Kind of interesting though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Like, I never really thought about it in that way, I mean, I knew we needed the monarchy, the, you know,
That was the whole
no
reason
taxation
why.
without representation and stuff. But I never really thought about it until I saw all that correlation. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. And while our common law is very similar in all these countries, I would say our tax laws are super different. I mean, they're based on the common law, but then like the way they kind of grew out of the common law is
Yeah.
so different.
So it's kind of like in the middle, you would say.
I would say it's more like how our children have the same mother but not the same fathers.
Yeah.
So like their base is the same,
It's the same.
but
yeah.
they're so different.
That's a good way to put it.
Because I mean, we all had like Father England or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it, Mother England, as our parent, and
The
so
parent is.
yeah. Then when we broke free, so like even India has tax treaties and tax shelters because it was part of the British monarchy. Yeah, and so it's interesting to see like as we broke free, like if we were the babies of this monarch parent, right, and we went off on our own, how we developed differently. So each colony kind of did its own.
So like on a, I guess a side note or like an interesting fact, I was reading on the Cayman Islands, and I don't know if you know, but one of the kings at the time, I forgot the year, but one of his relatives, I think a nephew, they set out on this journey somewhere, and their ships wrecked at the Cayman Islands.
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
so because those people helped them and his nephew was rescued, he promised them that they'd never have to pay taxes. And that still holds to the day.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I
That's
know that.
dope.
I thought it was pretty
See,
interesting.
that's what you get for being helpful.
Yeah.
Kind. That is a very interesting.
So they don't pay property tax, you know, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I think our lesson learned here today is that history can be kind of cool.
And taxes don't have to be so bad.
They are not.
If they have a
Right. I mean, if you
that
think about
serves the whole.
exactly. So if you're not like giving the money to the king like Robin Hood,
Mhm.
right? And you're like using the money for, oh, I don't know, something like roads.
Yes.
I like driving. I like driving on normal roads.
A good road.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and when you look at these countries that have, and it to us looks like onerous taxation, right? You know, 50+% or more. They have onerous taxation, but they have lower expenses. They're not paying for their healthcare. They're paying lower on other taxes. Like, oh, a great example is in Texas. You know, we have no state income tax, right?
Mhm.
It's like, we have no state income tax, da-da-da. But our property taxes are at least twice of most normal states with state income tax. Plus, we pay 8.5% sales tax, and then we have other taxes. So it's not like our state governments aren't making this up some other way,
Sure.
right? And if you really look at how the Fed taxes you, plus what you're paying locally and all those things, plus the health insurance you're paying for, plus the this that would come from the government and so on, we actually pay way more.
Yeah.
But we can't trust our government. And that is true. Those other countries trust their governments, I think because their governments came together, like all of them came together and created their government, whereas I feel like our government was, well, the foundation of it was the king. And then we came in and just the elite, smart 15 dudes or whatever, dudes wrote the laws, and they wrote them specifically so they could still own slaves. They wrote them without women being any kind of anything. Right, exactly. I don't know the history of Sweden and Norway or any of those places, but I'm guessing that they kind of came as more of a together thing than a do this, do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. That's what they accepted a little bit.
I think so. Another interesting point before we go, because I'm sure everyone's just bored of our history lessons.
We're trying to
But
be history teachers.
another interesting thing, did you know that, I know you know that England is no longer part of the EU, right?
Yeah.
The Brexit thing or whatever. Ireland is still part of the EU.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought it was like that whole
like, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was the whole area, right?
Everyone was
But
included.
no, Ireland is still part of the EU, which is why they had this really good tax shelter where you would do an Irish corp and an Irish corp, and then some foreign corp would own it. And the EU kind of like, the EU's like,
What
no,
are you doing?
we know you ex-Brit people don't like taxes, but we're gonna go ahead and make you not have shelters like that. Bummer! Singapore had a really cool shelter too for like family trusts and stuff, and then that kind of got in 2013. People were like, no, we're gonna want some of that money.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I know. Always getting in the way of fun. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us,
Thank you.
and have a beautiful day.